and welcome to Add More Zest. My name's Rebecca, also known as 4Kids at 147, and it's time for tip and trick number 28. I have kept my Minions painting out because this is a perfect example of how you can use this tip and trick. So for anybody that hasn't seen this Minions painting before, this is my very large, very long painting that is a lot longer, you know, lengthwise than it is the height. Okay, so because of that, I actually work on it on its side, because this is a lot more manageable and I can roll up in effect the big parts. Now I have done tips and tricks on working with a large painting and I use this one as an example. So I roll up inwards the large end that I've not done, I roll outwards the diamonds that I have placed, and then this is a lot more manageable to slide across my easel. However, there is one thing about turning diamond paintings round, which I do very often. I am often turning my diamond paintings round to make it nicer to work on the section I'm on. And that is that the symbols turn. So if I zoom you in so you can see, if I go the right way. Now, everybody's brain works different. So for some people, let me find a pen I can point with. So for some people, this number 2, for example, will still read as number 2 to them, even though it's on its side and it's the wrong way. Same with number 7, number 1, the letter C, the letter T. Where it can get really tricky and where it sometimes, you know, your brain has to do a little bit of extra thinking is when it comes to arrows. So this arrow to me is facing up because it's an upright arrow. This one is facing down. However, because this painting is actually, I've turned it, if I put it back the right way, if I can get it past my lights, this is where it might be fun. Let's see if I can get it to scoot up. Okay, so I think it's got most of it in shot. I'm very zoomed in and it's very climbed up against the wall. But if I have a look at this arrow, which is not showing you, okay, I'm not quite in far enough. This arrow is actually pointing to the right. And this arrow here is actually pointing to the left. They're not pointing up or down at all. That's not the way they were charted. They were charted as a left arrow and a right arrow. Now, when it comes to your diamonds and your container, let me zoom you back out so that you can see. So when it comes to the actual container that you're using, so for example, let's get the same ones. So this is the arrow to the right, which on here it's actually upright. And on the other one, which is where, there it is. So on this one, pointing to the left, on my canvas at the moment now, it is actually pointing down. Now, there are 2 ways that you can help to combat this. Some companies do use different colours for the arrows, which can really help you to make sure you're getting the right one. Now in this storage, these are round bottles. So I could just turn the bottles around for those 2, so that I see an up arrow and I see a down arrow. However, if you have a painting that you are actually constantly turning round to different angles, so it may be that I'm working on it this way this time, but I could decide to actually turn the canvas the other way and actually have that arrow pointing down and this one pointing up. So maybe I'd decide that actually that way is better for me. And this works more so with smaller paintings, but I could decide that that was nicer. So then my up arrow is actually down and my down arrow is actually up. And of course my right and my left would change round as well. I may have some times where I decide to work on the canvas this way. So maybe when I'm at the bottom, I'll work on it this way. But when I'm at the top of it, I actually work on it this way. Yeah? So there are many, many different angles that you can move your canvas to be best for comfort, for ease. You don't want to be stretching too far. And the last thing you want to be doing is turning your bottles round each time you turn your canvas round. Excuse me. So one thing you can do, if you find that that's something, you know, that takes a little bit longer for your brain to fully commute, letters tend to be easier. We live with letters all the time, but we live with arrows pointing in every direction. So we don't automatically change the direction of it like we would do with the number 2. Our brain will still read that as a number 2, even though it's facing that way. Is turn your storage round. So for this one, I would of course put it the opposite side of me because of the lid. But I would then have my storage here while working on my painting, which means when I'm looking for a blue up arrow, I can see straight away the blue up arrow and I can see the down arrow. So the reason it actually took me a while to find that arrow before, when I had my painting, when I had my things like this, is because my brain was still looking for a down arrow, when actually the symbol is an arrow pointing to the left. So turn your painting and turn your storage at the same time. You'll still find that for the likes of the number 1 and the number 2, your brain will still associate it as being number 1 or number 2 because it is a popular thing, a popular number letter that you use on a day-to-day basis. But things like these little chevron arrows, maybe even these triangles that they tuck into different corners, hashtag not so much, maybe the dots, depending on how many symbols of dots that you have. You will have the visual in the same direction as your canvas, which means when you're trying to match them up, your brain will associate that's an arrow to the right, whereas actually it's a down arrow, but it will match your canvas. So that's my tip and trick for today. When you turn your don't be afraid to turn your canvas, because the idea is that you enjoy the diamond painting process. So enjoy it. Just turn your storage at the same time, and depending on what storage you have, you know, you may well find that that is really easy to do. And you won't actually have to change sides because of a lid. It'd be much easier if I had the diamond painting the other way, because my storage could sit that way. But having said that, when I'm working on the other side of the canvas, I have my storage on the other side anyway. So depending on what storage you're using, you can make it work for any. But yeah, by all means, turn your diamond painting canvas around, just turn your storage with it to make life a lot easier for yourself. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you also again soon.